You think how hard it feels matters, that the struggle itself means something, that the effort should count for something. It doesn't. Not to the outcome, not to the result, not to the world outside your head. Because the world doesn't measure effort. It measures what gets done, what gets finished, what actually moves. And that's the part most people resist, because it feels unfair, it feels cold, it feels like everything you're going through is being ignored. And it is. Your struggle is real, your effort is real, the resistance you feel is real. But none of that guarantees an outcome. You can try harder than everyone around you and still get nothing. Because trying is not the same as producing. Feeling resistance is not the same as moving forward. This is where most people get trapped. They start measuring themselves by effort. How hard did I push? How much did I endure? How much did this cost me? And when those numbers are high, they expect results to follow. But that's not how it works. The system doesn't reward effort. It rewards effectiveness. It rewards execution. It rewards completion. It rewards what actually happens. And that creates a disconnect. Because internally, you feel like you're doing everything right. You're pushing, you're trying, you're showing up. But externally, nothing changes. And that's when frustration builds, because it feels like your effort is invisible. Because it is. Until it produces something. That's the rule. Effort only becomes visible when it turns into a result. Not before, not during, only after. That's why people don't respond to your struggle. They respond to your output. They respond to what you deliver. They respond to what changes. And once you accept that, something shifts. You stop expecting recognition for effort. You stop waiting for validation during the process. You stop caring how hard it feels, because you realize that feeling has nothing to do with the outcome. And that's where discipline actually begins. Not when it feels good, not when it feels fair, but when you act anyway without needing the feeling to justify it. Because the result is the only thing that translates. If this message resonates with you, like and subscribe for more content like this. This channel is built for people who are done waiting. The problem isn't that it feels hard. The problem is that you're listening to how it feels and using that as your signal, as your guide, as your decision point. If it feels too heavy, slow down. If it feels overwhelming, step back. If it feels uncomfortable, stop. That's how most people operate. And that's why most people stall. Because feelings are not designed to measure progress. They're designed to protect you from discomfort, from uncertainty, from effort itself. So the moment something requires more from you, your system pushes back. Not because it's wrong, because it's unfamiliar. That resistance you feel, that heaviness, that friction, that internal weight, it's not a signal to stop. It's a signal that you've reached a threshold, a point where most people turn around and call it too much. But nothing changes on the side of comfort. Nothing expands where everything feels easy. Growth only exists past that point. And that's why the feeling is misleading, because it makes the wrong option feel right. It makes stopping feel justified. It makes slowing down feel smart, even when it's costing you progress. So people build a habit of negotiating with their own discomfort. They adjust based on feeling. They move based on ease. They decide based on resistance. And over time, that becomes their default. A system that avoids pressure, avoids difficulty, avoids anything that doesn't feel right. And that system guarantees one thing: you stay where you are. Because every time it gets hard, you step away. Every time it stretches you, you pull back. So nothing ever fully forms, nothing fully develops, nothing reaches completion. And without completion, there is no result. That's why this shift matters. You have to separate what you feel from what you do. Because if your actions are controlled by feeling, your progress will always be limited. But if your actions are controlled by direction, feeling becomes irrelevant. It can be heavy. It can be uncomfortable. It can feel wrong. And you still move. Not because it feels right, but because it leads somewhere. That's the shift most people never make. They stay loyal to how it feels, instead of committing to where it goes. And that's why effort stays high, but results stay low. Because feeling was never the metric. Direction was. Nobody cares how hard it feels. And more importantly, it doesn't change anything. Not your outcome, not your position, not your direction. You can struggle through it, or you can complain through it. But the requirement stays the same. The work still has to be done. The standard doesn't move. The process doesn't adjust for you. And the result doesn't care how you felt getting there. That's the part most people never accept. They believe the difficulty should mean something, that the weight of it should be acknowledged, that the effort alone should count. But effort without completion is invisible. It leaves no trace. You can start 10 times, push hard each time, feel everything fully, and still end up with nothing, because nothing was finished. That's why this has to change. Not your effort, not your intensity, your relationship with the process. You don't stop when it feels heavy. You don't slow down when it feels wrong. You don't question it because it's uncomfortable. You continue. Not emotionally, not reactively, structurally. You follow through because it leads somewhere, not because it feels good doing it. And once that shift happens, something else changes. The weight doesn't disappear. The discomfort doesn't go away. But it stops controlling you. You stop negotiating. You stop adjusting. You stop stepping back every time it gets hard. And that's where separation begins. Because while most people are still reacting, still hesitating, still listening to how it feels, you're still moving. Even when it's heavy, even when it's quiet, even when it doesn't feel like anything is happening. That consistency, that continuation, that's what builds results. Not bursts of effort, not emotional spikes, not moments of intensity, but sustained direction, without interruption. And over time, that becomes the difference. Not talent, not motivation, not how hard it felt, but who kept going when it did. So stop measuring the weight of it. Stop analyzing how it feels. Stop using discomfort as a signal. And start finishing what you begin. Because at the end of it, nobody sees how hard it felt. They only see what was built. If this shifted how you see effort, subscribe. There's more coming that most people won't sit through. But if you do, you won't stay where you are.